Hi, everybody. I'm Mayze, Global Head of Data and AI for WPP, and I'm delighted to talk to you today about deepfakes and when it is okay to use them in marketing. And I'll go through four things today. So a quick introduction to this topic and the role WPP play in the world. And then I'm going to talk about examples of synthetic media in marketing and how to use synthetic media to train people. And you'll see there I've switched the language from deepfakes to synthetic media. I think that's a much more positive and progressive way to describe what's happening. But I will close with some of the ethics and watch outs around this. So first up, WPP is a creative transformation company. And about 1 in 4 ads in the world is made by WPP. And the creative bit means we're constantly looking ways to innovate. And the transformation bit means we're thinking about how to do marketing for the future and not just how we've always done it. And this image on the screen is one of our first examples of using synthetic media. So we were working with Wild Aid, who wanted to do a campaign to protect the endangered scarlet macaw, the bird you can see on the right. But for obvious reasons, we couldn't go into the macaw's habitat, take it out of its environment as an endangered species, and start to shoot it. So we partnered with Microsoft and NVIDIA, and we built a model that could create a scarlet macaw that it would be better than any human. And we did this by feeding the model with 20,000 images of macaws. And you can see the process. A human would draw an outline or paint the outline on the left-hand side, and the model would build the image on the right. And you can see that that image on the right is equivalent or better than someone who has been painting for absolutely years, certainly better than I could ever do. And this is an extraordinary leap for technology and humans combined, a really positive use case for synthetic media. This is another one. It's super fun. Hulu wanted to show that they still had live sports, but ironically couldn't get the players on the pitch to tell anybody that. So they created synthetic players by blending bodies of some players with heads of others. And within this ad, they talk about, oh, the rubbish legs, and I don't normally look like this. So they've done it with really good humor. It's really clear. There's no trying to trick anybody. Another really great example. One of my favorites from WPP is Wonderman Thompson partnered with ING, who wanted to celebrate Dutch culture and arts. And they thought about what the next Rembrandt would be like. So it's not about copying him or trying to pretend you are him. It was using a model. So they analysed tens of thousands of parts of his artwork and created a model. I mean, even looked at the volume of paint that was created. This was just extraordinary piece of analysis. And then they built a piece of art that they believed that Rembrandt would do next based on how his paintings were evolving and changing. And this was brilliant. It captured the imaginations of humans of what machines and humans together could do. And another example of WPP. So part of my remit is to demystify AI for everybody. I have a KPI to do that for 50,000 of my colleagues. And January last year, we were thinking about our program and we were partnering with one of our creative agencies and a production agency, and we were going to create 6 videos. And we were knee deep in scripts and production crew and locations and models. And I'll be honest, I was starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed by the permanency and the enormity of the investment we were making when I didn't know if they would land or hit the mark. And then lockdown happened and we paused and we thought, should we wait or should we look at alternative ways? And we found a company called Synthesia, and they specialize in synthetic media and making videos using avatars. And suddenly this felt like absolutely the right path we should go down. How brilliant to use AI to train our people on AI. Now, suddenly this idea snowballed into a really brilliant project. So instead of 6 live shoots, we have 19 videos. We also have been able to do it in English, Mandarin, and Spanish. We were able to do it during lockdown, whereas if we were shooting in real life, that would all have been paused. And it was a fraction of the cost. We estimate about 25% of the costs. And it's going to be easier to change. And I'm just going to talk you a little bit through this process. It was a new process for us. So one of our awesome agencies, AKQA, they did a huge amount of research because we wanted this to be quite sophisticated and future-proofed in its language. We didn't want to be focusing on voice assistants when everybody already interacts with voice assistants, for example. So we did scripts, and you'll see the circle there between Synthesia and AKQA, and there was a lot of toing and froing. We'd pick an avatar, we'd look at what the background should be, and some of the language was really entertaining. I think we should do a video of outtakes because we did try and get some jokes in, but the avatar can't tell jokes. It didn't get irony or sarcasm yet. It will, and it absolutely will really soon. But this was a really, really great progression for us that made us able to create something that we wouldn't have been able to. And it's had a lot of publicity. It captured the imagination of Wired magazine. Don't necessarily love their headline, but they thought it was a really exciting and innovative way to use synthetic media to train people. But obviously on everything, and particularly when you are using data, there are wrong paths to take. So I'm just going to finish up by giving some watch outs and some examples of experiments we've done at WPP. So you would totally understand that one of the biggest expenses when you're creating ads are the models, and we're constantly looking at different ways to create the creative workflow of the future. We do operate in every market. We do want to have diverse and representative models in our ads, but it is extremely expensive. And there is an argument, and an economical argument, to start to use synthetic media so that we can have more variety. And for us and for paintings, humans, it's very complicated, but to an AI, look, this is Danny, just a series of pixels. It's very humbling, but that's obviously how they see us. And there's loads of databases like this. This is from Celebrity A, about 32,000 images being labeled by a university in Hong Kong. And you can see they start to classify. So who's got glasses, who's got a pointy nose, who's got an oval face, and even some of these descriptions, you can see how biases might occur. Is it who's to say what's a pointy nose or not a pointy nose? But with these labels, you can then ask a model to create an image based on these labels. So on this left is an image of Danny who used to work in our office, and then all the labels underneath. And then the output from the model was the lady on the right. You'll see similar, but not quite the same. And when you take that and keep evolving it, the model actually changes people to make their skin whiter and to make them blonder. And if you keep evolving it and aging it, then the models often turn people into old men, which is not really what everybody wants to be represented as. And this experiment was done by our SVP of Creative Tech, a guy called Perry Nightingale, and he realized that we were creating bubbles, or the machine would create bubbles, because you'd keep clicking on smiley people and people would get more smiley, and you click on blonde people and people would get blonder, and you click on old people and so on, and it works really well. So here's an example where we've taken a guy on the left and we've aged him. And maybe that's okay to do that in advertising. And I will tell you, the guy on the left isn't real either. That is also an synthetic media created human. But with aging, it worked every time for men. But sadly, with women, when we started to age women, they started to look like men. And there's reasons for this, and this is because the data is biased. It had a bias towards younger women and it had a bias towards men. And obviously, if we continued to use this, or if we had let the models run a campaign, we would actually be eradicating older women from all creative, which of course isn't okay. And the same for what is considered attractive. There's a bias in many data sets that smiley blonde women with white skin are more attractive than other alternatives, and that's not okay either. So we have a right and a passion to protect citizens and humanity, and we're spending a lot of time at WPP on looking at these because these are unintended consequences. There's no malice or intent to harm society with these. It is a brilliant capability that models can do this, and we have the computer power to be able to process tens and tens of thousands of images and classify them, but we have to make sure that we're not causing harm. So to close, there are many positive use cases, and I've talked through, and where they're really clear, people have had fun, they're open and honest, they're behaving with integrity, that there is synthetic media being used. But we say it's not humans versus AI. It always works best when it's humans and AI. Thank you.